person, the online piano tutor and the online violin tutor. So today I've got my violin with me. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to hold the bow properly, and I'm going to be showing you how to hold the violin. This is just a short video, but there's going to be some other videos on how to play the violin, all the strings, what the violin does, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But today it's just about holding the bow and holding the violin. So let's get started. Just to give you guys a little bit of information about the bow. So hopefully you'll have your own bow as well at this point. Obviously you'll need a bow and a violin, of course, otherwise you won't be able to do these videos or learn how to play or anything. So hopefully if you've got your bow at the same time as me, we can learn together. So this is obviously the wood of the bow that you've got here, as you can see very simply, and underneath you've got the hair. Try not to touch the hair at all, because of all the dirt and grease and oils and everything you've got on your hands. Even if it's a clean hand, they can easily be transferred to the hair, and it can actually stop the hair absorbing the rosin that we put on the bow, which helps the bow grip onto the strings of the violin. So this little black piece here is called the frog, and this little black piece here is just kind of called the pad, if you like. Again, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to try and just position myself so that you can see me. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, obviously I'm holding the bow, I'm going to be holding the bow with my right hand. So I'm going to be positioning my thumb in between, I hold it up close, in the little wooden bit. You should have a little bit of wood or stick just in between the pad and the frog. So that would be there for you. So you'd need to put your thumb in that bit there, not actually on the frog, not on the pad, in the wooden bit in between the two, the brown wooden bit in between the two. So the thing you need to do with your thumb is put that in and make sure your thumb is bent. Okay, we can sort of position this later, but this is the step by step that I like to kind of do with this. Okay, so the thumb goes in first and try and keep it bent. The next thing we need to do is take the middle two fingers and angle them all the way round to the other side, so that basically your fingernails, or the ends of your fingers, are as low down as the hair. So basically we don't want them up here or there, we want them more or less so that they're poking through the bottom. Sorry, I can't angle it. So they're kind of poking through the bottom of the bow. Another thing that you need to make sure is that the middle two fingers, one is either side of the thumb, so the thumb is kind of, the thumb can poke through if it likes. So we don't want them here. We don't want them here, so I'm trying to get my other fingers out of the way. We don't want them here, we want one either side of the thumb, okay, with a little gap in between them. The next thing we're going to do is put our index finger on roughly the middle bit of this silver part that you've got here, and again angling it down towards the hair. So again, it's not up here, nothing should be up here, because you'll find it very difficult to hold. It should be down as far as the hair. And then lastly, the little finger should just sit on top. Okay, sorry, it's a very awkward angle. So what also I'm trying to do, if I come around this side now, so what I'm trying to do now is to tilt a little bit. Can you see how I'm tilting towards my index finger? As I do that, my little finger can just sort of, it just sits on top. If I don't, then my little finger comes down a bit and I have to physically bend it, and I find that very difficult to do. So if I tilted my hand, my little finger just perches on top, and what that does, that just kind of counterbalances the bow. So if I took it away, the bow would want to slip down. So let me do that all again from this angle for you. So my thumb's going to go in first, okay, bent, middle two fingers, one either side of the thumb, all the way down as far as the hair. The index finger here is going to also go down as far as the hair, roughly onto the middle of the silver bit. This should cause your hand to slant anyway, and your little finger should just sit on top like so. So you don't want them all spread apart, you don't want them all together, you just want a nice kind of, I suppose you just want a nice fingers gap in between the fingers. So that's how you should be holding the bow. Everybody's going to be different, but you know, you'll adopt a nice comfortable way for you. But roughly it should look like this. So what you don't want is you don't want your wrist to be lower than the wood of the hair. You want your wrist to be higher. So once you know that way, another thing that I always say to my students is perhaps just have your hair hanging down, have your hand hanging down naturally, grab towards the bow, and that should straighten your fingers, and then all you need to do is just slightly adjust your fingers. So if you like, my fourth finger sits just slightly over the little mother of pearl dot that I've got on my frog, and I do sort of, I suppose, hook my fingers underneath these two fingers, a little bit underneath the bow, but as you can see I am slanted and my thumb is bent. I would say the most important thing here is to make sure that your thumb is actually bent all the way through, so that eventually you'll be able to move the bow. You'll probably find that very difficult to do that right now. Don't forget, I've had many years of playing experience, and obviously I've practiced doing this as well. But the most important thing is that everything is slanted, it all looks as much like this as it possibly can do, and you'll be absolutely fine. Always remember this bow hold when you're playing as well. It's always worth, if you're sort of playing away and you realise that your bow hold has sort of slipped a little bit, very important that you stop, correct it, and then start again. So I always say to my students that it should feel like you're going to drop the bow, but you're not going to drop the bow. If it feels like you're going to drop the bow, if you've positioned your hand like this, it feels like you're going to drop the bow, that's good. That is a good sign, because you won't drop the bow. If you're holding it any differently to this, you probably will drop the bow. So if it feels like you're going to drop the bow, that's great. Everything is as it should be. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to hold the violin now. This is very simple. The most important thing with this is just getting the angle right. So if I just get my hair out of the way, what I want to do is, this is my violin, what I want to do is I need to put the violin on top of my shoulder. So the violin is going to be sitting on my shoulder here, right out to the side, and I would say it's probably, if I'm facing the camera, so you would be my 12 o'clock, I would say that the violin is probably sitting at maybe in between the 9 and 10, possibly. I do not want it out to the front, not even a little bit out to the side at say 11 o'clock. I want it at almost 9 o'clock, but somewhere in between the 9 and the 10, so it really is quite far out to the side. If I was actually going to start playing, my head would then sit on the chin rest, and I would bring my bow round. So even though in actual fact my body, you can see that my body is facing you, it's facing the camera at 12 o'clock, my violin is right out to the side. I need to turn my head all the way to my left, which is your right, and the bow on the string, so everything is out to the side, so not to the front, because you've got nothing to hold the violin with. It needs to be out to the side, so you can see immediately when I put the violin up, it really is quite far out to the side. It must sit on the shoulder, okay? When you actually start to hold the violin, because you won't be using any fingers quite just yet, you can just hold the body of the violin like this, or if you prefer to, you can put your hand into a sort of a V shape, if you like this, and just put the neck of the violin, which is all of this part here where you put your fingers, just put the neck of the violin in there, so you're supporting your hand there. Just make sure that you don't have your fingers touching any of the strings, or that when you do start to bow, you'll make a kind of scratchy, screechy sound. That's because your fingers are touching the strings. So either hold it like that to start with, or just hold it like this. Whichever way you prefer. You could hold it that way, because that's where your fingers are going to be positioned eventually anyhow. Okay, some students prefer to have a shoulder rest, a chin rest. This one is, this one's called a wolf. This is, I suppose, £25, £30, something like that. It's a very nice one. Personally, I don't use one of these. I used to use one of these, but I mean, I haven't used one. I've been playing since I was about I don't know, 7 or so, and I haven't used one for many years. So I don't personally use one of these. I just put the violin straight onto my shoulder. But what I do tend to do with this, I can't just put it straight on my shoulder, so you can see there's quite a gap there between my actual chin and the chin rest, which is a little black chin rest here. So what I would have to do is, if I turn around this way, I tend to bring my shoulder up and my chin down onto the chin rest so I can clamp the violin in between the two. So, and that's personally what I tend to do. I do find when I am teaching new students, however, that when they don't use chin rests, I give them the option of using them, shoulder rests. I give them the option of using one of these or not. But I find the violin starts to then creep round to the front a little bit. So if you have one of these shoulder rests, you simply just click. You get what you pay for with these as well. You don't have to spend, 25, 30 quid, but you just need to get a decent one at least, because then it will just grip onto the violin a bit better. So it just simply sits onto the side, and then it fills that gap. It fills that gap for you. So where I was lifting my shoulder, when I had the violin, when I was lifting my shoulder up and bringing my chin down, I was doing a lot of the work with my shoulder. With this, it kind of takes that work away for you, because as soon as I place it on my shoulder, I don't actually have to bring my shoulder up, because it does all the work for me. So that can help the violin stay in the correct position it should be. If anything, it would be good for new students to use the shoulder rest, because it would help you position the violin correctly. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. As I said before, do leave a comment in the box below if you have any questions or queries or anything like that, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But please don't forget to check out all my other videos.